Assalamualaikum, my name is Arfat and welcome to a brand new video. In today's video I thought I'd do an unboxing, since one of you commented saying that you guys you actually enjoy unboxing videos. So I'll do more unboxing videos. So today I have 4 packages here from various places. Book Depository, as I've told you before in my previous videos, I ordered book from Book Depository, Blackwell UK, and Amazon. The 3 main places where I order books. And so I thought I unbox this for you guys. It is full of surprises. This one is from Book Depository. I think all of them are from Book Depository. So Book Depository, again, not sponsored. Alright, so let's unbox this. My favorite part is peeling this. Yep, it's my favorite part. So you always give a bookmark. This one is an academic book by Yale University Press. The wording is a bit dark here. It's Mary. Mary through the centuries. One of my area that I need to improve my research on is actually on the worship of Mary over the centuries. How the evolution of the Mary worshipper group, and how Mary came to be adored as a saint in the Roman Catholic and Orthodox churches. And so I would like to find out, like, how did Mary become a saint. So this is something that have been interested in for a while. Obviously, if you read commentaries, you do get some ideas in there, but I've not actually read any dedicated study on this subject. And so this will be something that I'll definitely need to explore more into. And yeah, this is Mary Through the Centuries, Her Place in the History of Culture. Yeah, this is by Jaroslav Pelikan. Again, a very prominent scholar. Alright, that's the first one. The next one is... That's a nice sound. So let's see what we have. Another one from Jaroslav Pelikan. It comes with a bookmark again. So when we talk about Mary, okay, Mary is closely tied with the Eastern churches. Okay, obviously the Catholic Church adore Mary as well. But she is regarded on a higher level, I would say. People might dispute this, but she is regarded on a such higher level in the Orthodox churches. And so the study of the Eastern Christendom, the tradition of the Eastern Christendom, is so important. And this is actually volume 2. I have volume 1 already. And so this is volume 2. And again, this is by Jaroslav Pelikan, and this is from the University of Chicago Press. This is the second of the 4-volume compendium. Again, this is something that I'll need to look into. Eastern Christendom from 600 to the 1700. Alright, moving on. We have another. Oops, this one. What's wrong with this one? Okay. Let's see this one. Okay, this one is Introduction to the New Testament by Raymond Collins. Raymond F. Collins. If you don't know Raymond F. Collins, a very prominent scholar in the 20th century, and this is the Introduction to the New Testament. So this is not your average introduction to the New Testament, like works by Raymond Brown and Bart Ehrman. No, this doesn't focus on the New Testament in that way. This more focus on the study of the New Testament. Okay. And so this is not, if you want to know what the Gospels are, if you want to know what the book of the first epistle of John, the history behind all that, this is definitely not the book for you to go to, because I'll just briefly show you the content here. Okay, this speaks about the formation of the New Testament, the canonization and all of that. Is the same page. The textual criticism, the source criticism, the form criticism, structural analysis, exegesis and the church, okay, redaction criticism, and all those things, inspiration, text and tools for New Testament study. Yeah, so this is not the book for you to purchase if you want to know about the gospel, introduction to the New Testament in their historical context. No, this is not the book for that. So don't get confused by the title. So this is definitely not what you want if you want to know about the introduction to the 27 books of the New Testament. Okay, definitely not this one. So this one is by Raymond F. Collins, published by, it's at the back here, Image Book. So now you can see here. Okay, the very last one, a slightly bigger one. I think I already know what this is. This is the book that you would want to purchase if you want to know introduction to the New Testament, the way the people understood it. This is An Introduction to the New Testament by David De Silva. Okay, and this is by InterVarsity Press Academic. Now this is a slightly evangelical, it's a very evangelical work. Okay, but this is not like the those who believe that the Bible is inerrant. No. Okay, but this is evangelical to that degree. Not to that degree. An Introduction to the New Testament. And so I've been reading a lot of, well, not a lot, but a handful of evangelical work, because you have to take a look at things from both sides. Obviously, if you read works by Raymond Brown and Bart Ehrman, Dale Martin, even though Dale Martin and Raymond Brown, they're both Christians. Raymond Brown was a Catholic Christian, and Dale Martin is a Trinitarian Christian. But when it comes to their work, in a sense, they play by the historical game. Okay, meaning they're academic in their approach. They play by historiography. And so it is always important to look at things from both sides. Like, why do scholars like N.T. Wright believe that the Bible is inspired from God? Like, why do some scholars believe that there's a handful of evidence, there's a lot of evidence to argue for the resurrection of Jesus, and that historical analysis actually got it wrong? Okay, and so it is always nice to look at things from two perspectives. You cannot just be flop-sided. If you want to study anything, you have to be fair. Even though you do not believe Like, I do not believe that the New Testament is actually from God, because I'm a Muslim. But I shouldn't just make that presupposed position without actually hearing what the people say from the other side, those who believe that the New Testament is actually from God. And they came up with a lot of these, like entire book like this. Okay, and also the Catholic introduction to the Old Testament that I have from Ignatius Press, that actually argue for that the Bible as a whole is actually from God. And so you cannot be lopsided, you have to be fair. And then once you've learned and study as well as master the two arguments from both different sides, and that is only when you are actually permitted, in a sense, allowed, okay, if you want to be fair, if you want to be just, to conclude that whatever you want to conclude. Like, for example, I've read works from both sides, and I found the evidence and the argument more convincing that the New Testament is actually not from God. Okay, and so you need to read both works. Now, obviously, I've just purchased this book, okay, but this is just one of the evangelical work that I have, and I've also read and listened to people from the other side, those that believe in the inerrancy of the Bible, those that believe that the Bible, they believe in part of the Bible, but they rejected the resurrection, they rejected the virgin birth. And so you have to take all of these arguments into consideration, and then you have to weigh everything out and measure them equally and fairly. You cannot be polemical. At least this is something that I practice and exercise. You have to be fair, and you have to look at things from two perspectives. Why do evangelical scholars argue for the inerrancy of the New Testament, and why do scholars who have adopted a historical method or historiography argue against that the Bible is from God? If you look at things from both perspectives, you realize that both sides actually apply a different method. The books like this, they apply things from a more theological they look at things from a more theological perspective, whereas historians do not actually use theology. The evangelists, they would argue, or they argued actually vehemently at times, that if you want to study about God, you cannot use historical method. You need to use theological method, because theology is a study about God, a study about religion. And so it is like using a screwdriver to inflate a tire, for example. Like, it is the wrong tool. Or using a knife to eat your noodle, for example. It is not the right tool. It is better for you to use a fork instead. And so these are the arguments that evangelists or evangelical scholars, preachers, Bible thumpers, they argued on their side. But also, you have to take a look at things from an academic way. A lot of these the mistakes that I found, at least in my personal opinion, the mistakes that these evangelists actually, or evangelical scholars, people who argue for the inerrancy of the New Testament or the Bible as a whole, is also because the argument is one-sided. They have not actually taken into consideration why historians argue against, for example, the resurrection of Jesus, for example, or they argue against the account of Jesus in Matthew and Luke are actually historical. Um, they argue against all of this. And so the laymen from the evangelical side, they have not looked into literatures. They are not willing to spend the money to actually purchase books that were written by authors that they disagree with. And so this is actually not an academic approach, because you have to, if you want to be academic in your approach, and if you want to be fair and just to yourself, first and foremost to yourself, because you have to, if you believe that the Bible is from God, you must also be able to disprove those people that claim that the Bible is not from God. Otherwise, you'll just be believing something that you have not actually test, in a sense. Okay, not like test in a test tube, but test in a test by finding a counter argument, and those counter argument actually make sense. Okay, there's a lot of counter arguments that I've read that actually doesn't make sense. A deliberate attempt at misrepresenting the person who proposed the argument, just so that you can belie your audience. Not all those kind of things. So you should actually do it for yourself. Just to tell you a story, I became a Muslim. I grew up a Muslim, but I do not believe do not believe basically until I actually research for myself. I do not believe what people just say. I actually went and searched for things myself. I weighed the 3 Abrahamic scriptures. I studied them, repeatedly studied them, read literatures, listen to what people say about them, listen to what preachers preach, debate with missionaries on the street, reason with people, and look at arguments from both sides. But that is because I was very serious. If there is a God, first I establish that there must be a God. There cannot not be a God. And then I need to establish afterwards, once I've already found out that there's a God must exist. Okay. So this is not just a presupposition. Like I found the argument of the theists more convincing than the atheists, and so I believe ever since then that there must be a God. And so there's 2,000 over religion in the world today, or at least 20 years ago or 15 years ago, when I started this. Started reasoning with myself, and so over the past decade or so, I studied the different religion. I look into ancient Egyptian religion. If I can just show you, I look into ancient Egyptian religion. I studied about their gods. If I can do this, studied about their gods. There's complete gods and goddesses of ancient religion. And so I look into all these things, and can an idol really be a god? I look at the arguments from the Quran, look at the arguments found in the Torah, the Shema Yisrael Adonai, all those things. Can idols really be God? For example, why did the ancient Egyptians believe that Osiris is a god? Okay, why do they have different gods? Why did the Pharaoh call themselves God? Can a human really be a god? And then I look at the Christian concept of Trinity. I found out that it is not historical. I read the writings of the early church fathers, those people that were actually there within the first few centuries of the advent of Christianity. And I look at the Torah, for example, and I found that I read the Quran, and I found the Quran to be the most convincing. The core of the Quran, and also the Quran cannot have been produced by a man. Linguistically, the arrangement of the Quran, it is not linear, and the Quran mentions this as well. If it's from man, you will have like from A to Z, but the only A to Z that we have in the Quran is Surah Yusuf, and the other part of the Quran, they are not from A to Z. The stories of the Prophet are scattered throughout the entire Quran. It's not like we found in the book of Genesis. Genesis, we end with the story of Joseph, and then we go to the story of Moses, and then with Joshua, and then with the reign of the judges, and then we have Saul, David, Solomon, and then we have the minor prophets, and all the way until John the Baptist, and then to Isa ibn Maryam, Jesus, and then we have a Paul, and so it is very linear. It is A to Z, and also the miracles in the Quran, about the human conception, the birth of how babies are produced, like a leech-like substance that has only been discovered recently through modern science. And also because I found it very convincing that if God produced the Bible, then why are there so much discrepancies? Why are there so much contradictions? And ironically, the Quran tackles all this. And the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ do not have access to all these literatures. There's just no evidence that he read the entire Bible. In fact, the Masoretic texts were not even established until the 10th century, 350 years after he passed away, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And also the doctrine of the Trinity cannot be established or substantiated in the entire Bible. In the entire New Testament, I've looked the entire New Testament, I cannot find it. And then later on, I found out, having read the works of the Church Fathers, that this doctrine were vehemently argued for by the patristics of the 3rd and 4th century. Eunomius, writing in the early 4th century or mid 4th century, was still arguing against the ousia of the Son and the Father being alike. And so even Athanasius do not believe in the Trinity. And so this was a later invention. And so through research and constant research and willingness to continue reading literatures that I oppose to, this book is very expensive, by the way. Very, very expensive. But it is a must, because there could be new arguments in here. Even though this book was written a few years ago. This is the 2nd edition, by the way. Yeah. So we have to look into works written by the other side. If at the end of the day, having read literatures from both sides, we found that the Bible is not the Word of God, At least we have come to that conclusion having done our research and find the evidence not convincing that the Bible is actually from God, and found the evidence more convincing as presented by the other side, which actually suggests and demonstrated with evidence, okay, that has not been disproven by the other party, that the Bible is actually not the Word of God. And up to this day, I am still convinced that there has not been any argument that can disprove that the Bible is actually not from God. In fact, there are tons and tons of evidence that I found by the day, throughout my study, by the day. Every single new discoveries that I made, by reading through literatures, but these were actually already made, but I've only been made aware, having read these literatures, that actually refutes these evangelical arguments. And so, again, you have to read works from both sides, so that you are fair to yourself first and foremost, regardless of everything else. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I do not want to make this video too long, so just a summary of the books that I unboxed today. Mary, the Mother of Jesus, Mary Through the Centuries by Jaroslav Pelikan. Another book by Jaroslav Pelikan, The Spirit of Eastern Christendom, 600 to the 1700. More of a introduction to the New Testament. Shouldn't be titled this way. It should be titled a study of the methods of research into the New Testament, something like that, because this is what this book is actually about. I actually know of this book before, and obviously I know the first edition, but this is the second edition, and I heard there's a lot of updates, so that's why I got it. Yeah. So anyway, my name is Arfat, and I'll see you on my next video, which I will be filming directly after this, because I do film videos in succession, just upload them on different days, because I do not have the time to film every single day. So my next video, I'll speak about the importance of Mary, the Mother of Jesus, and lessons that we can learn from the interaction between Jesus and his mom, Mary. May the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be upon them both. So I'll see you on my next video. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.